and Robbo.
Streaming across the globe, Ben Norris, Rob McKnight, and David Robinson.
Ben, Rob and Robbo. News, reviews, entertainment news. It's the Ben, Rob and Robbo. Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. Ben, Rob and Robbo Show.
Welcome to the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. Here's Rob McKnight.
Hello and welcome to the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. And Ben and Robbo, you'll notice I got my little turn quite lovely there today.
I loved it. I was hoping for it, and I'm glad it came through. It was wonderful.
I have been rehearsing for the past 24 hours, and I still managed to have your mics on.
Oh, very good.
Well, looks like the technology is working quite well today. I thought that the turn was so good that I forgot about how bad the turn was yesterday. Let's hope we all don't have a bad turn on this episode.
Excuse me, Ben. I do want to pull you up. Of course, we are joined by Ben Norris and David Robbo Robinson. But, Ben, yesterday the turn was perfect. It's just that I forgot to turn your mics on. So that was the issue.
It was nearly perfect for that reason. But today, I'll give you a 10 out of 10. I wish I had one of those Dancing with the Stars paddles that I could just turn up every time you complete your intro. Today, 10.
Well, we've got a lot.
Maybe then I'll end up on Dancing with the Stars. I don't know.
Maybe. Or Dancing with the Hobos is what I went to say, but it almost came out as Hobos.
Oh, that was fantastic. I love that.
Well,
that's a show I'd watch.
Actually, so would I. Which one, Robbo?
God.
The homos or the hobos?
Homos.
Both?
Homos.
Right, okay. Well, let's pitch both to the networks. They need content. And hobos are very cheap. Now, look, we've got a lot coming up today. We will get serious in a moment because there is some breaking news. But we'll be meeting Harry from MasterChef, and we will also be talking to Bruno Boucher, who will take us into his wonderful, crazy world. He sees the world a bit differently to the rest of us, so I can't wait to chat with him. Meanwhile, let's get into the news, and we begin with some breaking news today. Bauer Publishing, which produces titles like Women's Day, TV Week, and Who magazine, has announced plans to make 70 staff redundant and discontinue printing some titles. Bauer has not announced which titles will cease, but many have assumed TV Week will be a casualty as it coincides with last night's news the 2020 Logies have been cancelled. The news of the cancellation came late last night and has led many to speculate the closure of that magazine. But the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show can exclusively reveal TV Week is safe. There have been rumours the beloved mag will move to digital, but my sources are telling me this is absolutely not the case, as the readership for the magazine skews too old to go to digital. Meanwhile, sources also tell me redundancies were handed out yesterday, and those affected were told to return all work materials to the office by Friday. And in another twist, Kevin Perry at tvblackbox.com.au has confirmed the sale of Pack Mags to Bauer will go ahead. Perry tells me the accounts filed at ASIC contain a parent company undertaking for the sale. That basically means no matter what happens with Bauer locally, the parent company is still liable for the sale of Pack Mags and to buy it. It's understood redundancies will occur across both companies. Robbo, this is a lot of information to take in. It's a big shake-up for the Australian publishing industry.
And we've got to acknowledge, obviously, that the publication industry in this country has been pretty sick for a very long time. It's an old story, but, circulations have been down across the board, and we've seen some pretty big magazines close. I think it would be very sad to see TV Week go. They're a big part of the TV industry, which, the three of us absolutely love.
But
TV
it is
Week is
not
time.
going. Let's be absolutely
No, sorry. This. Yeah, sorry. Yes, but that's what I'm like. To have them even near the chopping block is a bad thing, but I understand and I appreciate that you said that is safe and that is really great news. But this is really the way of the future. It's all digital and it's going to be moving in that way. And I wish the titles that can survive for as long as they can the best of luck.
Ben, there's been a lot of speculation going on because we've seen Bauer close its New Zealand operations and the government there tried to work with Bauer, but they basically pulled the pin. There have been some fears that would happen here. They've got the merger with Pack Mags, which we've said will go ahead because of the parent undertaking, the parent company undertaking. You've been getting across this story. What are you hearing?
Well, the rumours that I'd heard was that TV Week was going to go to digital, so it's great news to hear that you've had that confirmed. I've been collecting, this might sound silly to a lot of people, or it might make a lot of sense for some others, but I've been collecting the TV Week since I was 8 years of age. My dad gave me a subscription for TV Week, which might seem a little bit odd on my 8th birthday, and I continued to collect it well and through, into my adult life now. My partner hates that I buy the TV Week because I think he thinks it's a bit frivolous. But
I love
listen, I think one of the things I really love about magazines, and maybe this is showing my age as well, but I love going to the news agency to pick up the magazines that I buy, like Empire magazine, TV Week, and I still buy the Woman's Day every now and again and say that it's for my mum. But I love getting a magazine. I love getting it in the little paper bag and with a bit of sticky tape on it and getting home and undoing it. And I just think that we should be looking to support magazines. And I think if magazines do less salacious gossip about Nicole Kidman being pregnant over 50 and more interesting stories about real Australians, I think that we would see these magazines continuing for a little bit longer. And also, what I like about the TV Week is they don't actually use any paparazzi shots. They're just telling stories about what's happening in the magazines, and I think that's really powerful.
It's a great magazine, one that has been around a lot of years, and obviously you will have more about the TV Week Logies in entertainment, and we will cover that there a little later on in the show. The advertising market across all media is diminishing at the moment, especially with this pandemic. The advertising market was flat already, but this pandemic has certainly made things worse. And so people understand, Bauer publishes Women's Day, soon to be publishing New Idea when it acquires Pac Mags, Who magazine, and a string of other magazines. Basically, it is the biggest publisher of magazines in this country. The idea of closures is going to affect some. The idea that some may go digital will make sense. TV Week doesn't make sense. It's an older, skewing demographic, basically, in the nicest possible way. They have a sustainable following that eventually just dies off. That's the only reason TV Week numbers go down, because of that losing audience through death, for want of a better term. I'm not explaining that very well, but that's basically it.
Rob, what I'd really like to say is I would love to acknowledge the people that have contributed to magazines and these people who have lost their jobs. I just want to say, as a reader of magazines, I've enjoyed your work. I think you should be proud of the work that you have done. And I feel really saddened to hear that so many people have lost their jobs, from a company that, I've been a reader from for so long.
Yeah, and interesting to note, there could be more redundancies to come when the deal with Pac Mags goes through. Kevin Perry's sources at tvblackbox.com.au are saying the people at Pac Mags will also be affected by these redundancies. So bad news in the publishing industry, but let's move on to other topics, and we'll move on to the coronavirus. And the Prime Minister continues his mission to get school classrooms open as soon as possible. Private schools have been told that if they want to secure billions in early release of federal funding, they must open on June the 1st. Sources have told news.com.au they also believe the New South Wales government is working along the same time frame for schools to be fully operational. Ben, education is one of the most important things for a country. Are they taking too long, or should they wait longer?
Look, I think we were talking about this yesterday, and I think much like what the government is doing, I think I sort of come to and fro just as much as them about what I think is the right thing to do. I think that seeing as that the government has the information and they're probably the best at making these decisions, I guess we'll just have to follow their lead. Education is very important, and I know it's been very stressful for parents at home, homeschooling their kids. I think they, for many reasons, would love to see their kids go back to school. But I think we have to wait until the time is right, and we have to make sure that what we are doing is being safe for the teachers that are teaching our children, or not my children, but your children, and making sure that the children are safe as well.
Robbo, this has been Morrison's standing point, that we really should be going to school. He hasn't seen a need, based on all the advice from the get-go of this, to close down schools or reduce schools. Is this his way of trying to force the situation? Because it is the one chink in his armour with his leadership of the coronavirus. His poll numbers are actually doing very well, but many people are saying they're confused about school closures because there hasn't been one coherent message. And it would seem the states and private schools are all basing it on fear and not medical advice. Is this a smart play by Morrison?
I think with Morrison, you've got to understand that he needs to really establish leadership, especially after the early part of the year with the bushfires and stuff like that. It was pretty flimsy going on the holiday. We know all of that. I think what we're going to see here is someone who's going to be very determined and very stubborn on this. We already know that Morrison, kind of works that way, but I think this will be that clink where he goes, I'm a leader, I'm deciding. I'm not a massive fan of Morrison. I've certainly made that known on this show, but I do appreciate the fact that he's made a decision and that's what he's going forward with. What will be the telltale sign, though, is if his kids go back to school.
He says they will. He says he wants his kids to get back to school.
But there were reports earlier when schools were starting to close, and he was saying, no, keep your kids in school, but he'd already taken his 2 daughters out. That was early times.
I don't know that was ever proven. I don't know the results of that, but obviously if he was doing that, that's very hypocritical and not the kind of leadership we're looking for.
But if he did do it, then you would come out expressly and say, my daughters are at school, and that's okay. So the fact that he didn't do that and there was these rumours swirling, I think that creates a fair bit of issue. But yes, I think that it's important for Morrison
we're now condemning people on what they don't say, Robbo?
No, but you're a politician. You're a prime minister. If you're saying to people, send your kids to school, and he's not sending his kids to school, that's an issue. Absolutely.
Yes, but we don't know that that's true.
We don't know, but that wasn't my point. My point was that if it was true, you would actually make a point of saying that my kids are in school, and that never happened. So I'm not saying that. I'm not debating what he did or didn't say. I'm just saying that, well, as a politician, and especially one like Morrison, who loves to show off, when he wants to, and when it's good for him, like when he had the cameras come into his church that time, it's a bit unwise, a bit weird if they were at school and he didn't make a bigger deal about it.
Oh, Robbo, I think you're certainly making your way to Scott Morrison's Christmas card list, that's for sure. Anyway, let's move on. And we're turning to the United States now, and more people across the country are protesting lockdown laws. Audrey Whitcock runs the Reopen NC Facebook and has organised 2 outdoor rallies. But now she's tested positive for the virus. Ms. Whitcock says that she self-isolated for the 14 and didn't attend any other rallies. Robbo, is this instant karma or should we have empathy for her?
No empathy for her whatsoever. She would have been asymptomatic, as we know, for a period of time before she had symptoms, before she tested positive. She went to these stupid rallies. We've got to remember that there are now 1 million people infected in the US, the largest by any country in the world. They've also seen over 56,000 deaths. This is a big problem. So to have these idiots out here doing these kind of ridiculous protests while so many of their fellow citizens are dying is just stupid. It is outrageous. I cannot believe it. And Donald Trump has said that he doesn't mind these rallies because they practice social distancing. We can see on screen now there's certainly no social distancing being practiced there. This is just so stupid and will result in so many more dead people.
Ben, is this Darwinism? The stupid die.
Well, I think you're probably right there, but I think we should always have sympathy for anybody that does get infected and their life is at risk and their health is at risk. I always find that means that I don't laugh at people's expenses. But I have to say that along with a lot of other people, watching these rallies happen and watching the stupidity that's being bred through these people is horrendous to watch. And, I've stopped laughing at it. I now just feel that it's just really sad. It's sad for the Americans.
Yeah, I know. I guess I agree with what you're saying about having sympathy, but how far do we go to protect the stupid? Governments are trying to protect people. They're actually protesting these government sanctions of staying in your house, self-isolating. And when they get sick, I'm sure she wants all the care she can get in the world. But, do you have to live or die by your actions?
You can ask my partner, stupid people need help too. So I think I think that it's just hard to condemn people just because they're stupid. To me, I always see people, and when I see them being silly, I think they just are missing out on information. I think we just need to up the ante on making sure that there's accessible information out there for stupid people to read or to get their eyes or ears on to make sure that this stuff comes to an end.
Yeah, okay. Well, coronavirus continues to wreak havoc with one of our most sacred institutions, the AFL. The code is desperate to return to the field and has proposed to players that quarantine hubs be created for the duration of the competition. The catch? No families will be allowed to join them. Ben, this is a pretty sticking point. Do you think this plan will get off the ground?
Well, look, I just think that sport is such a huge part of Australian culture, and I just, it's another one of those things, it's no different to education. We've got to move forward. We've got to somehow help out the sporting industry and make sure it continues. I grew up in the suburbs of Melbourne, and I think that whilst I wasn't a big Little League player, or wasn't very good at it, I still am very much aware of the culture of sport and how important it is growing up. So, look, I think with all the issues that are happening, getting it back on the road, it's still, I still can't make any clear decision as to whether or not this is the right thing to do.
Well, I think the problem is, I got no problem with the hubs. Like back in the day, cricketers had to go overseas for 6 months at a time to play cricket, so it can be done. Having said that, I do understand that the players would want their families with them, and what they're saying is that you want us to be in these hubs, no dramas, but our families have to come with us. It is a big ask for the entire season for players to be away from their families. And you could say, well, just do it. As I said, cricketers used to do it back in the day when they used to travel around the world without families. But we are in 2020. Family is important. We understand the importance of family. So, Robbo, are they right in demanding that their families get to stay with them?
Absolutely, because we're forgetting one really major important thing here, especially for sports people with all that pressure. It's mental health. And all of those people need to be near family. They're under so much pressure for their careers and for being in the public eye, and they can be hated and liked in an instant. We know that in Australia. If you kick a good goal and you're wonderful, if you just miss that goal, then you're terrible, and how dare you represent this country. Mental health is a massive issue for sports people, especially professional sports people. So I applaud them for this. I think exactly right. They cannot be away from their families and their loved ones for 20 weeks. No, not on.
I actually agree with you. The thing is that this will obviously add a financial burden to the AFL, and this is where we come back against the human versus the financial. So, imagine putting up every family, that's bigger rooms or even more rooms at wherever they decide to do these hubs. Can you understand why the AFL might be hesitant to allow this?
Yeah, of course. It would be a massive money situation. I totally appreciate that. I do. But, call me old-fashioned, but I kind of put humans above profits. Silly old me.
You would not make a good American. Let's move on. There are fresh calls for supermarkets nationwide to better display which products are Australian made. Recently, an IGA on the Sunshine Coast developed an Aussie product shelf complete with these wobbler signs. Now shoppers are hoping that the big two, Coles and Woolies, does the same thing. Robbo, it's always great to buy Australian, but with so many under financial stress, won't the price be the only factor when shopping?
I totally agree with you, Rob. I think that's true. We all want to buy Australian. We all want to support local business, but sometimes that can be a much more expensive cost, and especially in this time, as you mentioned, financial stress is a massive issue. So yeah, I would love to buy the $1 can of chopped tomatoes, but there is another can there for 70 cents. Unfortunately, this time, I have to go with the 70 cents. It's a great idea, and I really support this kind of patriotism when it comes to buying things. The other thing I want to mention as well is, where are all the specials gone? The supermarkets aren't doing it tough, but it seems the specials have kind of gone by the wayside. And
well, everyone's been hoarding. They've been out of stock. They don't need to do specials. So I think that's where they are, Robbo. Ben, I think there's an issue here too. I think people are willing to pay more when it's something they believe in. But there's a couple of angles we've got to look at. People doing it tough, especially during the coronavirus, are really, while they may care about it coming from Australia, that's not going to be the factor that makes them go and buy Australian. But a lot of people with a little bit of money that might still be doing it tough, but with a little bit of money, are making choices to go organic. Could Australia's resolution or solve the problem here with buying Australian be if we went more organic with our foods and gave people that choice? Buy Australian, you're buying healthier.
I mean, but those options have always been there. Like, I can think of when people are going shopping at the moment, I think people are just being really careful about what they buy. I think for me at the moment, I'm still lucky enough to, be in a job, and my partner's in a job, so our shopping is still the same. But I can tell you at times where we have found it a bit tough, the shopping decisions we've made have come down to a price point. However, still our shopping at the moment is very much that we support Australia. And even when we saw what happened with the milk crisis, I think for a lot of people when they're shopping, they need to do a little bit more research on exactly what they're buying and making sure that the money that they're spending is going in the right places. And of course, that means that I support buying Australian products. To me, organic stuff, I'm like, like most of the time I can see that there's no more broccoli left in the broccoli aisle, and I can buy broccoli if it's organic, but it's $75 billion. I'm like, I'm going without the broccoli.
Well,
That's not important.
we are a family trying to be organic. We've got 3 kids, and we do make choices and sacrifice a bit of our money to go down that path. My point is, it seems that being Australian hasn't been enough in the future. It hasn't been enough in the past. Maybe with families getting smarter about what they're eating and trying to avoid certain chemicals that are in our foods, maybe this could be a way of Australian products standing out from the crowd, and meaning people will be willing to pay that bit more because it's healthier for their kids. I don't think people want to pay more for like just because it comes from Australia, but if they're getting something beneficial like a lack of chemicals or a more organic product, I feel that that could be the turning point.
Yeah, I think that you might be right. Like,
I was about to say, obviously I'm alone here.
No, I think that when it comes down to things at the moment, it's just going to be like the individual. I'm just trying to say, make sure that with the free time that you've got now with isolation life, have a look into which products that you're buying are from which countries. And I think it's important at the moment to support Australia. And it's probably not that important to shop organic. That's all I'm saying.
All right, fair enough. Let's move to our final topic for the moment. And with strict lockdown laws still in place across the country, we're turning to an old friend to get us through. Free-to-air, cable and streaming services have all seen a spike in their audiences. So it got us thinking, what are you watching? Ben, apart from watching reruns of yourself on Big Brother and this show daily, what else are you watching?
Sorry, I just realised how true that is as I sit awake every night watching YouTube reruns of Big Brother from 2012. Look, at the moment, we're watching a lot more television, and I've actually found myself back watching The Project. I'm watching The Project at night just to get some fun takes on the news. I'd been off The Project for quite a while, and at the moment, I don't know, I've found myself back to that. However, there's some amazing TV series out there. I loved the Reese Witherspoon and Kerry Washington series, which is not out here in Australia. Not to say that I illegally downloaded it, but it somehow appeared in my house. But it was a brilliant TV series, and I just think I also finished watching what I call Underbelly Season 700. I finished watching that on Monday night. So look, I'm watching more television than ever, and there's definitely some really great content out there. My biggest concern is this, and that is with so many productions being shut down, there's certainly going to be a big grace period where we're going to be missing scripted dramas. So yes, I'm making the most of it while we've still got it.
But
I think that's where you go back to the classics, because we are here, Rob. But I've been starting to watch Blue Heelers again, which is an absolute bloody cracker, and still holds now. So yeah, we're gonna lose some things, but if you can find the Blue Heelers, or if you can find a country practice, they've still got it. So that's what I'm kind of been watching. Also, 30 Rock.
Robbo, don't say this to my partner. My partner would be thinking right now that he's terrified, because every now and again I say to him, you know what we really need to do? We need to dust off a classic. I've made him watch Secret Life of Us, Love My Way, and he has hated all of them. Like, he's like, please no, please don't dust off the classics. Please don't dust off Buffy the Vampire.
Does he have a frozen heart?
He does, yeah.
What else are you watching, Robbo?
As I mentioned, Veep, 30 Rock. I'm also watching American Horror Story. And I'm also going back to a few films like Predator. Weird Science was another great one. Uncle Buck I've watched just recently. And
So
the Jurassic
good.
Park franchise. So
Fabulous.
I've been hitting the classics, yeah. What about
Very
you, Rob?
nice. I have been watching, I've discovered a show on Netflix called Kim's Convenience. It's a half-hour sitcom, not a sitcom, a dramedy, if you want to call it that. It's a beautiful show, a Canadian, and I just love it. I would recommend it to everyone. I'm also watching The Golden Girls on Stan. I've been,
So good.
yeah, I'm going through that.
Rob,
I'm
which golden girl are you?
I'm probably Dorothy. I'm near the end of season 2 at the moment. I've been watching Picard on Amazon Prime, and Westworld is dropping new episodes at the moment on Foxtel, which I'm just loving as well. So there's and one of my most favorites, Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, which I think from memory is on Stan. Is one of the best new shows out there at the moment. Have a look at that. And for something a little bit different, try The Stranger on Netflix. It's a show that it's good British drama that leaves you unsure where it's going next. So, but let us know where you're going. And a big thank you to everyone choosing to watch this very show over their lunch breaks. A lot of people are making 1 till 2 their lunch break now and watching our show. Let us know what you're watching. We're now integrating social media into the stream, so we'll have your social media feedback coming soon. But in the meantime, I feel like we need a news hit, and for that we go to Aaron Young in the Ticker newsroom. Aaron, what is making news today? Yeah, hang on. Hang on, Aaron.
Shall we? No worries.
Gotcha now. Sorry about that, Aaron.
The TV Week Logie Awards have been canned for this year, and now there are real concerns about the future of Bauer's presence in Australia. The company has made 70 staff redundant, and another 70 have now been stood down. They're ending print publications of some mags, and then their Sevens deal to sell pack mags to them, which is meant to close later on this week. China has lashed out at our PM for trying to blame the COVID-19 pandemic on the communist state. State media warning any push for an independent inquiry into the virus's origins will spark a travel and a trade boycott. More than 500,000 debit cards have been issued to bank customers around Australia to help them shop online or use contactless transactions during the coronavirus pandemic, fast-tracked by financial ASIC. The rollout is meant to help the Australian Bankers Association, also the custom-owned Banking Association members who don't currently have a card. And the global aviation industry is warning of a severe cargo capacity shortage as airlines around the world slash jobs, the latest being British Airways. The International Air Transport Association, IATA, says the March air cargo data shows a 15% job. And all of that panic buying has been great news for Coles. As we heard you talking about earlier in the program, the supermarket giant booked an unprecedented 13.1% growth in quarterly comparable sales across its supermarkets. Panic buying customers have already changed their habits as they stay indoors due to coronavirus restrictions. Total supermarket sales revenue for the third quarter rose to $8.23 billion. Let's check the weather map now for today. Freezing for us here in Melbourne today, but eventually we should see some sun and 19 degrees. Sydney 25 degrees, Brisbane 28 degrees, Perth 22 degrees, Adelaide a top of 16 as well. Have a look at the local market now. The ASX 200 up somewhat, up about 1% or so at midday. Bank and energy shares also storming higher. Now, guys, we are often struggling to remember what to call this show as I'm marching around the office going, I've got to get ready for the Ben, Rick and Rob show.
Rick!
Come up with every single name except for the people who... Rick's the guy who presses the buttons behind. But we were all talking about our favourite kind of TV shows earlier. You mentioned The Golden Girls. That's what I'm going to refer to the three of you as on air and off air from now on. But... it also
Robbo's
reminds me, I
Blanche.
want to merge that with my, I want to merge that with also my favourite ever Logie's moment. I watch this on YouTube all the time. I've taken a 30-second clip so you don't have to watch the whole 7 minutes, which I do over and over and over, but here it is.
Oh,
Now, my
that's
favourite part
fabulous.
about that is John Deeks, who does the beginning of it, drops his microphone and it just goes downhill from there, which is just great. But and that's what we love about the Logies, right? Don't give us your polished performance. You know, make us here at Ticker feel better about ourselves when everything goes wrong, and we can count on the Logies for that. But gentlemen, just want to see the golden jackets out together one day, and it'll be my dream come true.
Well, we're into making dreams come true. But Aaron, make sure you stick with us, because a little later on, Ben will be pulling another classic Logies clip out, and you will want to see this one. Everything that can go wrong
Put out
does
your
go
Logies
wrong.
clips.
Yes, pull out your Logies clips. Absolutely right. We will catch you tomorrow, Aaron. Thank you very much.
Sure.
All right. Now, every Wednesday, we like to take a look through the looking glass look through the world through the eyes of Bruno Boucher. A former producer in radio and television, Bruno is currently the manager of Carl Sanderlands and has become a social media sensation with his infamous lists. Bruno, a very good afternoon to you. Try that again. Bruno, a very good afternoon to you.
And good afternoon to you guys.
I'm going to get this right one day. Bruno, just the other day, we had a furious debate about one of your posts that showed Vegemite mixed with butter. I don't think Robbo and I are talking yet over our disagreement on that one. Take us through how this atrocity occurred.
Well, guys, I actually have to apologise about the whole thing, right? Because I made people think like, oh, that my wife did it, you know, on a Saturday morning, naughty wife. And, you know, my caption was like, oh, hey, you know, does that deserve the death penalty? And,
Which it does.
You know, people were weighing in, being like, yeah, kill her, hang her. And, and the reason I have to apologise to you guys is because the whole thing was fake. It never happened. I set it up on a Saturday morning with a spoon. I was just co-smearing them, and I thought,
what?
That'll make good content. Yeah, I mean, it's nuts, you know. And it's not until my wife sat me down and said, "Listen, why are you doing this? You know, you have a fun life. Why are you lying on social media?" And I sort of had to think about it for a while, and I'm like,
validation.
What was I doing it for? Was I doing it for attention, which maybe I was? Was I doing it for the clicks? I don't know. I suppose so. I mean, it wasn't a grand plan. It was just one of those things where it's like, it'd be kind of fun to pretend that that's happening in our household. And I went down this kind of rabbit warren of trying to look at, well, how many people do lie on social media? And I read that like 75% of people lie on social media.
I think that's an interesting point. A couple of things here. Your wife did take to Twitter. She wasn't happy, but I just thought she wasn't happy being called out. And it was a fair conversation, because putting Vegemite in the butter is absolutely an atrocity, and people should be spanked at the very least for it. But Robbo, I'm not going to spank you, so don't even ask.
Thank God.
But Bruno, I can't believe you lie. Now, one thing about social media is I feel like we all put the best version of ourselves. You know, we always we might do art with the kids for 2 minutes. We take a picture of it and say, I did art with the kids today, you know, and we certainly make ourselves look good. But I can't say I lie on social media. I'd like to know if Ben or Robbo do.
I was going to start off with this because for a very long time I started editing myself to look a certain way, and I did this so successfully for a period of time that a friend of mine said, "Oh wow, you live this so exciting life, you know, blah blah blah," and I was like, "Hang on a sec, that's not true. My life is a disaster." And then the worst thing was, I then had this era of photos where I looked really beautiful, and I kept being really down on myself. So I was like, I've been photoshopping my face for so long that I had somehow started to believe that this fake photoshopped version of me was better than me. And so now I'm just going to have to stick to the basics and paint myself with makeup, like paint by numbers.
But Ben, it's an interesting point that you raise about the look, because as I was reading more about it, it was, you know, there were articles after article by psychologists saying, you know, those with the higher level of engagement with social media have the lowest amount of self-esteem and self-esteem about their body image too, which makes sense.
Well, I think that you're right. And I actually think that you've touched on a really important thing with social media. And I can vouch for this. Like, for me, I think sometimes I come across like I'm, quite confident. And what people don't realize, actually, my mum often says this to her partner. She's like, Ben seems really confident, but in actual fact, he is quite an insecure person. And I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of not embracing my flaws and wanting to present myself as something better than I am. And I think that's just really dangerous territory, and it's a culture that needs to be looked at. It's a culture that needs to be stopped, really.
Yeah, I agree. And, in a way, there's something quite refreshing about realizing that you're a BS artist, like I was on Saturday, and just realizing, like, hey, why can't I, instead of pretending, oh, there's some zaniness in the Boucher household this morning, why not just post, like, what's actually going on? I was with...
But what is actually going on? Can you tell us?
No, we were picking mulberries and listening to country music. Nothing exciting, but I guess it's wholesome, why not?
Well, I
guess that you're so used to working in radio where you're coming up with content topics, I guess working with Carl Sandilands for so long. And, I think sometimes we sort of tune our brains into always thinking, oh, what's going to be good content? What's going to be good content? When we really should be switching off. It's a real hassle, I think, when you're working in the media industry. And I think, Saturday mornings is a hard time to try and find that time to switch off.
Yeah. So once again, apologies to you guys for dishing up some fake news. Although, I mean, there is a real point to it that, I'm sure that some households in Australia probably have butter like that. Yeah, it's based on truth.
It certainly got me and Robbo fired up. But, Robbo, I want to know, have you lied on social media?
No, I don't. And I think social media is a cancer on the face of humanity. I think it's awful. And it brings out the worst in people.
And you are now on a show that streams through social media.
No, I'm on a show that's on the internet that should be on broadcast television. Broadcast television, what is that? I can't. Sorry, I forgot what that was. But yes, I don't really lie. But I've got to tell you, Bruno, I'm a double dipper. And when I finish scraping it off, I've got excess, I put it back in the pot.
But I get what you're saying because I mean, what's the alternative? Are you meant to use two knives? I mean, that's twice as much washing up, which seems, very environmentally unfriendly. So I don't know what the alternative is. I think you're spot on, Rob.
Yes, you are meant to use two knives. You do not go from the Vegemite back to the butter.
Rob McKnight, you do not use two knives. Oh my gosh.
If I buttered my bread, and I have a lot of Vegemite sandwiches, just ask my wife. I will butter the bread, I will put the Vegemite on, but if I went to make another one, I would either clean the knife or I would get another one. I will not go back into the butter with a Vegemite spoiled knife.
Oh, that sounds like it'd take hours, and you put that knife down, you get the new knife.
No, it's 2 licks, Bruno. Bruno, it's 2 licks of the knife, and then you do the butter. I'm joking. I do not lick the knife and then use the butter.
But you don't need another knife. You need to get a life.
Yeah, but do you use both knives at the same time? Like, can you multitask and sort of lather it on like that?
Can't everyone?
One at a time?
Can't everyone? Bruno, always a pleasure talking to you. I love looking at the world through your eyes. Thank you so much, mate.
Thanks, Bruno.
Have a nice one. See you guys later. Bye.
Today, where are we going today? You never know where you'll end up with the random live shot of the day. And today we're taking you to the Northern Lights, a scene from the Churchill Northern Studies Centre. When we visited it on Monday, it was a cloudy day, but today it's beautiful and clear, but cold. And it's not dark enough to see the lights yet. This has been my biggest failing, but I will keep coming back to it time and time again until we get this right. The forecast is a low of -14 to a high of -8 degrees Celsius. And while we watch this live shot, let's take a look at some of the social feedback coming into the Ben, Rob and Robbo show. Guys, check out Bean Dorm on Prime. Okay, that's an interesting one. We also have, I'm still waiting for the 4th season of Gilligan Island. Where is it? And regarding our Buying Australian, Tony Jones. Hang on, these are all from Tony Jones, I've just realised.
He's obsessed. We love him.
Maybe we've only got one person commenting. I buy Australian because I'm Australian. Is there a better reason? He also says, I used to buy both the Sunday. I used to buy both the Sunday papers every week until the TV Times folded and TV Week was released on Mondays. Let me go into the. I want to see if there's any from anyone besides Tony. Here we go.
We love your work, Tony.
Talking about the Logies, we've got Philip saying, "Can the Logies forever? It's just a waste of money and time. Results are a joke and nothing to do with ability or quality." Well, I don't know if I quite agree with that, but thank you for your feedback.
What I love with that, Rob, is that Tony Jones obviously is the same Tony Jones who hosted Q&A for over a decade. So it's great to see that he is a very big fan of the Ben Robbo show. Wonderful. Thank you, Tony.
I'm sure it's the very same Tony Jones. So, yes, Tony, now that he's stuck at home with coronavirus and not hosting Q&A, he's watching the Ben Robbo show. And speaking of such things, it's time to find out what's happening in the world of entertainment with Ben.
Well, Rob, we have been talking about this a fair amount today, and we also had Aaron talking about it with our ticket news. But the Logies had officially had the curtains be, pulled down on it yesterday. Last night, the official announcement came in from Bauer Media confirming that the 2020 ceremony was not going to go ahead. However, highlighting the fact that they're going to put a lot more effort into the 2021 Logies, which is really important. I think that for a lot of people out there, and it's important to recognise this, that some people might not like the Logies, some people might think that it's a tired tradition, but for me personally, I think it's actually a part of Australian culture. I think what's really fun about the Logies is the ridiculous nature of the show. Things always go wrong. Our stars make fools of themselves. I think it's very tongue-in-cheek. So I think it would be sad to lose it. And in reflection of that, Rob, I actually have a clip of my favourite Logies moment. Have we got that footage ready?
Yes, here we go.
Be here. Frankly, I feel right at home. Here is where the excitement is. This is champagne with all the fizz. Ecstatic. I could yell, I could dance about. To be emphatic, I could shout, 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 shout it all about.
Gee, but it's good to be here. I feel right home. It's my considered opinion that the place to be is the place I'm at. Nice to be.
Well,
what a classic.
I can't stop watching it. I think it's so amazing. That Kerry-Ann Kennelly singing at the end is just phenomenal. But all those missed opportunities with mics and things going wrong, it's iconic Logies, and I'm sad that we're going to miss it this year, and I'll look forward to it coming back next year.
Well, the story with that one is that Don Lane missed his cue, and so they were a couple of bars behind, and someone who shall remain nameless told me the story that when it came to Denise's turn, she was following the pattern of being behind, but Daryl Summers was like, no, this is my bit, and just sang right over us. So he didn't care whose way he got in. So another great piece of Logies history.
Do that, would he? Daryl would never have done that to Denise Drysdale.
No.
Come on. Also, making some news at the moment, and we've been talking about this a fair amount on our show. Big Brother 2020 is coming back, and as we continue to talk about the housemates that will be participating in the series, we have some more information. This time, I think it's important to acknowledge the news headlines that are coming out at the moment about Daniel Goringer, who is a AFL star. Not only is he an AFL star, he's actually a social media influencer, but he also is a self-proclaimed comedian. Now, the Daily Mail came out with this story a few weeks ago, and it wasn't 100% confirmed by Channel 7, but with further information that an AFL player or a football player is in the show, I think we can confirm that Daniel will be amongst the housemates in the 2020 series. Now, it's still, the jury is out on whether this guy is actually funny, and I know some people out there already know him from his AFL days, but I'm going to play a clip of something he has on Instagram. I think it's actually quite funny, but I'll leave it up to you. Do we have that footage?
Just tag a mate who's in this race every weekend. and 600 metres to go now in the Weekend Cup. It's Friday Boys Who Wants to Be a Leads, followed by I'll Have a Few But Nothing Silly. Inside of them is Bring Out a Launch Pad, and following closely behind that is I Better Cancel Tomorrow's Breakfast with the Missus. Give him a text on the inside. Behind that is How Far Is He? Where's the ATM? And does he take Afterpay behind them? Let's put a Trots multi on, and the Missus isn't happy with me. I'm going to be in the doghouse. He's on the outside. Coming into the final 100 now. That stuff's pretty good. Missus said, don't come home. Can I stay at yours? Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it on the outside. But it's I'm never drinking again. I'll see you next weekend, boys, who just win.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's actually so funny. Did you not think that was funny?
No.
Oh no!
I hope
Well,
that's not
I think
what we're
as soon as
getting in Big Brother. But I think it's really important to note the Daily Mail, as you said, had been doing stories about this. They said rumoured. What you are doing is now confirming that report that this guy is another housemate. As you revealed, Ian W. from Perth yesterday, you are confirming this guy is a housemate on Big Brother.
Yeah, and I'm not only am I confirming that, I also am giving him the tick of approval. I know that, Robbo, you hate these influencers, you hate people on Instagram, so I'm pretty sure you're going to give it the cross, so, you're not going to sign off on it. But I actually thought it was quite funny. What did you think?
No, I can't.
He hates it.
They're fake celebrities. Yeah, they're terrible. No, but
But he's a sports star as well.
Let's hope he's better in the house.
Not an influencer.
Well, rumours are out there saying that these housemates that were picked haven't been performing as well as producers had hoped. So maybe he's dropped the ball. Ba-bump.
Very nice.
Joke. Okay, I've been canned. Moving along though, making news headlines as well is Craig McLachlan. As we have been aware, Craig McLachlan has been going through a very difficult time with these court cases that have been preceding his career. Obviously, his career has been put on hold while these allegations are being put together being worked on in court. I think it's really important to say that at this stage, one of the allegations has been dropped. However, there is still plenty of other allegations that are still preceding him. So it'll be interesting to see what actually happens with this outcome. I think what we ultimately want is to find out the truth and make sure that the truth gets out there and the right people are treated accordingly. Rob, what do you think? Do you think Craig McLachlan is... do you think he might be innocent or do you think he might be guilty of these things?
Look, I'm not going to cast aspersions either way, but I do think that his partner made a very good point that 3 years ago he was accused of something. He lost all his work, all his income straight away, and this matter is still ongoing. I do think we live in a society where people are condemned before they are found guilty of anything. And look, it's very difficult in the theatre world because it is very lovey-dovey. There is a lot of touching and mucking around, and it's different to working as an accountant in an office block. And this is the thing that's really hard for people to get across, that when you're in a creative field, sometimes there are things that people say or do that is not what you would get if you were all just counting the numbers, and there's a creativity that comes from that. I'm not making any decision on whether Craig is guilty or not, but I do think, that guy was in a Channel 7 show, and he got cut straight away as soon as this came up. He has not had his full time in court. He has not been found innocent or guilty, and yet he's lost all of his work. And there are people out there trying to support him who say, bring back Craig McLachlan to the, I can't remember the name of the show he was in, but it was the old detective show on Channel 7 from the ABC that moved to Channel 7. And I think we as a society need to start thinking, we will make our determinations and punishments once people have been found guilty. I think that would make a better society rather than just accusations condemning people.
Yeah, I think you're right, but I think within any industry, even though there has been a lot of leniency within entertainment and that bawdy nature that happens in theatre, everyone deserves to feel safe. And I guess with this situation, 100%. The only light that can be shone from this, and I think the silver lining is that I think people are going to need to be a little bit more careful in that industry, because it's not funny, and people have been, whether or not this has gone to the extent of what's being alleged, people have been upset and they have been hurt. So I guess we just need to, make sure that
the industry's
stops happening,
changing. The industry has changed forever. There's no doubt about that.
Well, for someone who may not have changed, making news headlines is Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise back in the day made a film called The Outsiders with Rob Lowe, and Rob Lowe, making most of his isolation time, has in fact joined a podcast and talked about that relationship he had with Tom Cruise back when that film was made in the early 80s. And he came out saying that Tom Cruise went ballistic one day on set because he didn't want to share a hotel room. We've got some audio right now of that podcast.
So it was me and Tom Cruise and Emilio and C. Thomas Howell. And we got, first time I ever stayed at the Plaza Hotel. And we check in and Tom finds out that we're sharing a room.
Okay, that's the...
And just goes ballistic.
I love that Tom Cruise, there's a story out there saying that he's gone ballistic because I'm pretty sure anyone that's ever worked with Tom Cruise has a very similar story. He's got a big temper, you know?
Indeed. Ben, we're just going to put our feedback super up because Jason Ferguson, and hopefully this works, has told me it was the Dr. Blake Mysteries that was the Craig McLachlan show that I couldn't think of. So thank you very much, Jason. Appreciate that. But Ben, you may continue. Just needed to get that in.
I probably needed to phone a friend and ask my mum. She is obsessed with all of those murder mystery shows. I'm sure that a lot of mums around Australia probably don't necessarily know Craig McLachlan as a star and just enjoy some of the brilliant roles that he's had on television. But finally for today, we're going to finish up with the TikTok of the day. This one has been getting sensational views all around the world. And one of my friends sent this to me the other night. Wink, wink, Rob McKnight. We're going to play my favourite TikTok of the day, which I think is a little bit uplifting.
Always been when
Roll
it's
film.
right, it's right. Why wait until the middle of a cold, dark night when everything's a little clearer in the light of day? And we know the night is always gonna be here anyway. Thinking of you's working up my appetite. Looking forward to a little afternoon delight. Rubbing sticks and stones together, making sparks ignite. And the thought of loving you is getting so exciting. Sky rockets in flight. Woo! Afternoon delight. Whoop. You guys have it, I think. Afternoon delight.
I love that.
So good. I loved that TikTok. Thanks, Rob, for sending that to me. I got that at the end of the day after a very busy day, and it definitely put a smile on my face. And for a lot of people out there at the moment in isolation, a shout out to Afternoon Delights happening all around Australia.
Which was the name of Simon Townsend's Wonderworld when it first launched, a very old kids' TV show that was shown in the afternoon, until someone said to them what an afternoon delight was, and then they quickly changed the name of the show. Ben,
Let people Google it.
Thank you very much, Ben. All right, now here's Robbo.
Well, MasterChef Australia continues to light up our screens, but unfortunately, they're a little dimmer this afternoon. Well, MasterChef Australia continues to light up our screens, but it's a little dimmer because of the elimination of Harry last night. Now, Harry from Tasmania came third in season 8, but he comes first in our hearts here on the Ben, Rob and Robbo show. And Harry joins us now. Mate, well done off with the rock pool last night. We'll get to that in a moment. But how have you been spending your time since you last turned a few knobs in the MasterChef kitchen?
It's every time. I've had quite a diverse career over the last couple of years. I went into distilling. I started a Bachelor of Science degree in botany, majoring in botany. And of course, I worked in a lot of the luxury hotels around Australia. So it's been quite varied, actually. So just, hospitality, alcohol, plants.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is quite the mixture there. You did say last night when you were eliminated that you weren't sure if you were ready to return to the MasterChef kitchen. Why was that?
It's such a beast. It's like, because it's such a massive show, it takes up a lot of your time and a lot of your life. Like last time I was on the show, I auditioned in August of 2015 and didn't finish filming until May in 2016. So it's a massive, massive chunk of your life that you have to just to give up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, last night we saw a wow. Yeah, good. We were all glad that you did. Last night we saw you take part in the wow pressure test. You put a lot into it. Do you think that you put too much into it?
Apparently so. I think my downfall for last night's episode was I just didn't focus enough on the food that I like to cook. I got too caught up in like the wow factor and making it sort of too showy and fancy and that kind of thing. And I didn't focus enough on the food that I really wanted to cook. Like, if I could have put up a plate of fried chicken in front of the judges, like a beautiful, sticky, spicy fried chicken, I would have had.
So
had
that would have
every
been.
idea.
I was going to ask you, what if you had your time again? What would be your dish that you wanted to cook, and that would be that spicy chicken. What would you put with it?
I am a absolute sucker for fried chicken. Fried chicken and pickles, like a winning combo. I think in anybody's heart. And if you don't like fried chicken, you might be crazy.
Yeah, I agree. I ate 10 pieces of KFC chicken to myself yesterday. So, yeah, that's why I'm trying to wear the black. Yeah, no, not good on me. Got bad on my my waistline there, I can tell you right now. Would you go back again to the kitchen if you got another chance, or is 2 times enough and you've had a good time?
Oh, that's a hard one. I don't know. I mean, like, it's always such a good experience, and I got to meet so many incredible people this time around, and like being able to connect with people that you just know through social media on a personal level and like on a real life sense, then I think that was just my highlight for it. So in that sense, yeah, I'd definitely go back, but it's super stressful at the same time.
I can imagine. Now, Harry, final question, probably the most important question that we're going to ask you today. What's for your tea tonight?
Oh, I just filleted some fish for this TV interview that I just did on Studio 10. So I've got some fresh fish in the fridge. So it might be fish tacos, I think.
Oh, beautiful. What a wonderful dinner item there. Harry, thank you so much for joining us, and all the best for the future.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, Robbo. MasterChef continues Sunday to Thursday at 7:30 p.m. on Win and Channel 10. Robbo, it's a good series, isn't it?
It's a wonderful series, Rob. It's a shining light in Australian television. Just glad to see just some good old-fashioned cooking with some wonderful people.
How much did Channel 10 give you for that?
Were you flirting with him at one point? Like, I was watching that and I was thinking, I think Robbo's flirting with this man.
Oh, yeah, I would eat his fish taco. There's no doubt about that. That's what he's having for dinner tonight, and I would happily have that for my tea.
Robbo, when will you stop?
I'm just being honest. He was a lovely man, a very sweet man. No, he's a wonderful guy, and I can't wait to see what he does next.
All right. That brings us to the end of another edition of the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. We will be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Thank you to everyone who's writing in and leaving us messages on social media. I think that worked today on the whole. We just need to find some other people besides Tony. Tony Jones, our #1 fan. I love it. Making a lot of comments. Ben, thank you very much for your inside information. Robbo, thank you very much for your great work. We will see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock on the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. And I noticed no one said, well done, Rob. I guess that's just the way it is with us.
No, well done. We just didn't want to talk over the top of it.
Okay, bye-bye.
It's the Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben, Rob and Robbo Show.